We are your home theater and AV questions answered. This is AVRant. Want your home theater or AV question answered by Tom and Rob? Send it to question@avrant.com.
Jack H. Jack H. would like to improve the quality of his music listening experience. Right now, he typically streams Pandora or Amazon Music to his Onkyo TXNR646 receiver from either his Samsung Blu-ray player or the Onkyo app on his phone, with the speakers being bi-amped Polk RTIA 710. Excuse me. The sound quality is pretty good, but he's sure it could be better. Without spending it again, I really like this, but am I missing something?
Yeah.
It might could be a little better. Without spending a ton of money, what can he do to achieve superior sound? Should he invest in vinyl? No. Or SACDs? Not really. No. Use high-res digital files? Not going to hear any difference. No. Buy an external DAC?
There's some advantage to a DAC, but
maybe that's why I went and didn't reject it completely. Other things I reject completely.
So, I mean, this is an interesting broad-scale spectrum question, because
there's a lot of things you can change there.
Yeah, I mean, what I want to nail down is, to me, there's really three things that make large, audible, significant differences to your sound quality. Mm-hmm. That is, whatever source you're starting with, that makes a significant difference. The speakers you're using to play them back, those make a big difference. And then your room, your setup, where your seat is in the room, where your speakers are in the room relative to the boundaries and to your seat. Those are the three things that make a really big difference.
And notice he didn't say receiver yet or bi-amping anything.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's largely not going to be your amplifiers. It's not going to be your DACs. It's not going to be your cables. It's these three things. So. Right. It seems like he's kind of saying, should he change his source, right? Is changing his source going to make a big difference? And it could. I mean, both Pandora and Amazon Music are compressed, lossy sources.
That's right.
Yep.
So changing to a lossless source, and I'm not going to say high res. I'm not going to say it has to be 24-bit, 96 kilohertz. I'm just saying maybe you switch your streaming service to Tidal. Or maybe you switch it to the premium version of Spotify where it's 320 kilobit, which is still technically lossy, but I've never been able to actually
That's
hear
pretty
the
darn
difference.
good. Once you get to 320, if I'm being honest, I cannot really hear it. Not on the equipment I have.
So, I mean, on that first front, I would say there is room for improvement. If your primary sources are Pandora and Amazon Music, there is room for improvement in the source signal. You could go to something that's either lossless, or you could go to something that's very, very close to lossless, like Spotify Premium. So that would be that first part. I don't know what you guys think of that.
No, I agree. I did a test online one time with the studio headphones that I normally use, my big old Sonys that I'm not wearing right now. And it was there to see if you could tell the difference between 128K MP3, 320K MP3, and lossless. And, if I'm being honest, I can't tell 320 from lossless. Come on.
I sure
was missing
can't.
that all the time. And every once in a while, I was like, oops, I picked the 128K. But mostly I can hear the 128K MP3, right?
Yeah, you can.
So I would say upgrade that streaming to the higher bitrate or lossless streaming would be one thing you can do for sure. There really is a difference, and you may not hear that immediately, but more likely is your speakers in your room.
Yes.
Okay, now before we go there,
sure,
you have to also, I hate to say this, but a lot of today's music is highly compressed.
Oh, it sure is.
Well, you can't.
Now this is a different
studio,
a different type of compression we're talking about.
Yes,
we're talking about dynamic range compression.
Dynamic range compression. I
That's
just
right.
want to let everyone know those are two different things.
Yes.
Right, and you lose a lot in dynamic range compression in recording. So if you do want to get improvement in your music, other than going to 320, is see if you can get something that's not compressed, like the original recording, or.
And to be fair to the really strong vinyl advocates, that is one objective area where very often the vinyl release actually does have some dynamic range to it, and all the digital releases do not. Now, like we keep saying, that is not because of the format having some inherent ability to do it where the digital formats don't. That is a mastering choice. But But to be fair to the people who hear the vinyl and go, this sounds better to me, sometimes objectively it really is. It actually has like 12 decibels of dynamic range,
Yeah.
whereas the CD has 3. You know,
Three.
that's a
So
real
that's
thing.
huge.
Yeah.
That's entirely possible. Sure,
So,
sure.
so that's why I wanted to bring that in because of the record player or
Yeah.
going to vinyl. That's the reason why a lot of people say vinyl sounds better. I have some collections, but I have the one I collect vinyl because I remember sitting down and opening them up and reading them and all that kind of stuff. So I have a collection of stuff that brings back some
Yeah,
memories.
they're tactile and fun to play with.
Yeah, but they're nowhere near to any of my digital stuff. I mean, they just can't. They just hit.
They can't.
They can't. It's physical. So so I just wanted to let them know that's why the vinyl.
Yeah,
people always
it's
say.
really tough because there's no blanket answer. Because I mean, that can be the case on SACD releases. It can be the case on some high res, so-called high res download file releases. Again, there can be different masters used on those, but it isn't a blanket thing. We can't just say, get the SACD, you're guaranteed to have the better version, because that hasn't been the case in every instance.
So it's more about shopping for what what the audio engineers did.
Yeah.
Did the artist get crazy with it? Do they care?
If you want to be freaky about it, that's what you're going to do. If you're not going
Yeah.
to go freaky and you just want to get better sound, then we go to the next step, and that's the speaker placement.
Yes. Yeah. So I mean, the real answer of what is going to make everything that you listen to sound better, it would be upgrading your speakers, or before that, making sure that what you're using already is optimally positioned and set up and calibrated.
Yeah.
Because those are the things that make real differences, in my opinion. You got those. You got those three facets.
I come across so many people who don't understand stereo, the stereo image, where you put your speakers in the right place and you aim them the right way, so that all of a sudden the voice is in the middle between the two speakers. That's huge. They just you need to be able to do that, and that's you're right, Rob.
But what I don't want to mislead Jack is that there's some super simple magic bullet that's going to make everything, like you buy this one external USB DAC and suddenly the world has changed, which is sometimes what the marketing tries to promise you, and it's like, nah, that is leading you astray. You have these 3 things, focus on those: the source, the speakers, the setup.
Put those little silver pucks on top of your
Yeah, right.
speaker.
And don't forget the green magic marker.
That's
Never
right.
forget the green magic marker.
So yeah, I think this last question will be a great place to stop for this week. So let's finish up with Jack's last question.
All right, Jack's next question. What do we know about using a Raspberry Pi or Hi-Fi Berry as high-res playback devices? Well, I know it will cost you, what, $30, $35? And then a lot of pain and suffering. If you don't just love messing with little dinky computers. I mean, they're fascinating, but there are easier ways to get high-res and high-quality sound.
Because it'll take a month or 2 to learn the programming.
That's right. So I would say stick with your phone,
Ew.
because it's just a lot easier, unless you just love playing with little tiny computers. If you like that, do that.
Yeah, I mean, this is a perfectly fine method of playing back whatever music files you're using. I mean, it is just a little computer. That's what it is.
It's a tiny computer.
So for the people who are using JRiver on a home theater PC, or maybe they're just using the playback on their Chromecast audio, or they're just using the playback on their NVIDIA Shield TV or something like that. I mean, all of these devices are just little computers. You can program them to do just about anything. But again, I don't want him thinking that the magic bullet to making all of his stuff sound better is playing it through a Raspberry Pi. That's not the case. I mean, the Raspberry Pi is just a little computer that plays back whatever file you're feeding into it that it is compatible with playing back. So it's not as though it's some magical device doing anything particularly special.
Right. Unless it's making horrible mistakes, every digital device ought to sound exactly the same as every other digital device if it's built well and not making mistakes.
Right.
Or introducing noise, because some of them do introduce noise.
That would be making mistakes.
That's right.
Yeah. So one of the things I do, just as from the professional side, that I use every day, and because I don't like listening to music on my iPhone, I use the FIO. Have you ever heard of them?
Oh yeah,
FIO. It's a digital player. I can get my 320s off of my computer, and then I use that, and it has a line out. It plays line out or headphone out. It doesn't care which one or the other. That's a nice little player. It's nice and clean. It's easy to carry around, and you can then get that better quality sound that way if you want to look at something kind of iffy in that area. But that's what I use every day for listening to lossless or lossless. How do you say that?
Lossless or lossy. Yeah.
Less lossly?
Less lossy? You sure?
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah,
But
no, I mean, I
It's
think
not a perfect solution.
I think Jack is maybe falling a little bit down the audiophile rabbit hole of, you know, you have to have high res digital downloads. You have to play it through a home theater PC, or you have to play it through a Mac Mini, or you have to play it through a Raspberry Pi. Like, I think he's falling a little bit down there. And what we're saying is it's both simpler and more multifaceted than that. It's simpler in that you start with a good, clean source. It really doesn't matter which device plays it back for you.
right.
Right? And you get good speakers and you set them up well. So those are the three facets. It's not a one magic bullet, but it's none of this other complicated throwing you down a rabbit hole stuff of it has to be this certain file type played through this certain device. No, it's just a good clean source. So
Right.
He's
So
better served spending his money on better speakers and
Yes.
a good clean source.
yeah,
and treating the room if it's very reflective.
that's right.
Yeah.
That seems to be the biggest thing with room problems.
Want your question answered? Send it to question@avrant.com. This is AVRant.
Now go out and listen to something.